Hello and welcome to the Cup of Triathlon podcast. We're brought to you every week by our sponsors oxygenaddict.com, raceforce.co.uk and Whiteboards for Cambodia. Hells, are you there?
Rob, I am absolutely here.
It's lovely to talk to you.
I know, it's been a while, hasn't it? It has felt like a fair chunk of time. I went solo last week.
Yeah, you did a damn good job as well, mate.
Oh, thanks. It was really interesting speaking to Kerry. So
it was very strange not hearing me talking to you as well at the same time. It was like, she's gone solo.
It was like when you went solo last year when I was away, and it really doesn't sound as good because there's no one else.
It's not the same house without each other.
It's not.
We're two peas in the pod, aren't we?
That's the thing. It just sounds. It's still, you can get across the interest and everything like that, but it just sounds a little bit more boring.
It's nice to have someone to talk to, isn't it, and bounce off.
Absolutely.
That's the thing. I did a good job picking you.
Thanks.
I did a good job picking you.
Well, we like to talk, don't we? We like to talk about triathlon. We like to catch up. It's, yeah.
There was somebody on the camp going, what's a podcast then? What, you two just basically talk about triathlon? And other people were going, what do you mean you don't listen to the podcast? How can you not listen to the podcast?
So fill me in, Rob. How was the camp?
It was absolutely awesome, mate. It was, you can probably hear my voice, I'm still a little overtired. It was 6.5 days of firstly the finest weather we've ever had in the Canaries in all the trips we've done. Usually you get a couple of overcast days and you maybe wear a gilet and arm warmers in the morning. It was cracking the flags every day. We had blue skies every day morning till dusk, 25 degrees plus. It was just fantastic.
Oh, stunning.
It really, really was amazing weather.
And no really ridiculous winds then?
We hardly had, in fact, we literally had no breath of wind at all for the first 3 days. It was quite spooky. It was just like riding in the UK on a hot day. There was no wind at all. Oh. And it picked up a little bit towards the middle of the week, but nothing like we've experienced. We maybe had 15, 20k an hour.
Which you can absolutely deal with.
You can absolutely, it was just like riding along and on a crosswindy day. It was nothing mental. So the guys who were out in the camp and the girls who were on the camp came back with this completely false idea of how cool it is to ride over there. But it was, in terms of a group training environment, one of the things Chris said to me before he went out was that one of his clients had said to him the year before, you know, I always knew that you trained hard, but I had no idea how hard you really trained. And it was like everybody egged each other on, you know, to do a little bit more every day. Yep. And it became just bonkers. I think people got done more training than they thought than they even dreamed they were physically capable of. It was just brilliant, a brilliant week.
And how did it pan out in terms of the actual plan? Were people allowed to do their own thing a little bit, or was it always in the group? Or
well, what we did was we had swim, bike and run every single day. So there was coach swim session every day. We had about 6 or 7 different coaches out with us, so there were at least 2 coaches coaching different lanes every day of the week. So if people wanted to swim every day, they could have got 6 swims in the outdoor 50-meter pool.
Nice.
And we did Hamish and me did an open water session for them one day while there was a pool session going on for some others. So they got really, really, you know, intensive swim coaching from a whole variety of different people. So you never ended up with that feeling of, you know, being sick of the coach's voice kind of thing. Yeah. Which I think could easily happen.
I'm thinking, I still can't do that damn drill, which we've been trying with the same coach for 5 days, and I'm still not getting there.
And the great thing from the coach's point of view is we all saw loads of different ideas and picked things up off each other that you go, oh, that works really well, or that works with that kind of person. And so that was brill. The riding we split up into 2 or 3 different groups every day, so there was always an option of a shorter, easier ride for the guys dropping down from like the group 1, group 2 area. For the guys and girls who were in group 3, they got some pretty solid training in every single day, so it was 3 to 5 hours optional every day for every person, and some days it ended up being much longer. So people have come back having ridden, I came back having ridden nearly 30 hours over 6 days, so it was pretty full on riding.
That is a lot of bike time.
Yeah, it was.
Was your arse a little bit sore, or it's all fine?
No, it was all right
Good,
actually.
good.
Plenty of chamois cream, and plenty of different shorts on. I'm lying. Yeah, I was pretty sore.
Yeah.
We were pretty sore. And then obviously we had Chris Standage and Phil Murphy with us as the main Group 1 leaders who took it out, and those boys can train. It was hill intervals, time trial efforts on the flat, sustained tempo ride. There was something hard people could choose to do every day. And whereas at home you'd go, right, I'm going to have an easy day tomorrow, there was always this group of people egging you on to go a little bit harder. And there was one day we went out and the warm-up of the ride that we did turned into a chain gang. And it was just such great fun. You know, it was just brilliant, killing each other in this warm-up. But because all you've got to do out there is eat, train and sleep, you bounce back every day.
Yeah.
You get back, you're exhausted, you have a nap, you go and do a bit of a run session or a swim session, you eat your dinner and you go to bed early, and you feel great again the next day and ready to go.
Oh, can I come next year?
Yeah, you definitely
Thanks.
can.
Have you penciled dates in the diary yet?
It's going to be about the same time next year, I think.
Okay, right.
First week or two of February.
I'm keen.
All you can eat buffet, Helen,
Yeah, I'm there.
every day.
No.
My dad said to me, my dad came with us, bless him, at 72 years old, and he said, do you know, your mother's worried that you're not eating enough because you're so skinny, but I'm going to tell her after this week. As I was packing down like 6 croissants with cheese and 6 donuts for breakfast and a bowl of muesli and 4 glasses of chocolate milk, and he's like, you really don't have a problem with eating, do you? And I was like, no.
No, it's just my body.
Snack it.
Oh, that sounds great. So do you feel now a little bit more confident now about Triathlon X? Not that you ever didn't, but do you feel even more excited about it now that you've got that week behind you?
Yeah, most definitely. I've got myself to a whole other level of fitness through that week, even through most of my week being like guiding clients, essentially, you know, riding with people and making sure they're okay. I still managed to rack up 30 hours of riding at home. Would probably be 3-4 weeks worth of riding in the winter in the UK, isn't it?
Yeah.
Probably more.
I'm not even going to tell you about my turbo sessions. It's just dull comparison. I'm getting a little bit bored of Katy Perry now, but you know.
I tell you what though, Hells, I've been training on the turbo twice a week during the winter.
Yeah.
And it's got me damn fit.
Well, I do. Yeah. I totally, that bit absolutely get. And I do feel gradually fitter every week since starting back and getting back into the turbo and everything like that. So I'm sure it will be fine. I couldn't come out to Fuerteventura this year. And yeah, there's not much I can do about that apart from get on the turbo, put in the work and roll on longer days.
It is underrated. There's a real like counterculture at the moment in road cyclists about knocking the turbo. You see loads of jokes on Twitter about, you know, you never heard Eddie Merckx say it's raining outside, so I'll just jump on the turbo for an hour. In this kind of, you know, it's all about logging miles in the rain kind of thing. And I just don't believe it. I've trained for years on the turbo in the winter. And it's been real validation this week going out there and thinking, yep, I can hold my own amongst X, Y, and Z, despite not having really put any miles in on the bike for about 4 months. So anybody out there who's like pulling the hair out thinking I just can't get fit because I've got no time, you totally can with 2 focused turbo sessions a week. And yeah, you've got to do one longer one and try and get outdoors once a week, but if all you've got is 2 hours on the turbo, make use of them wisely and you can still get pretty damn strong.
That's what I'm going to be pretty damn strong then. That's what I'm going for, Rob. Yeah. I need to pack a little bit less into my life, and then I might be able to get out on my bike a bit more. Because at the moment, I sort of look at the weather on a Saturday maybe, and I think, okay, it's 3 degrees out there, so I could go and freeze for, 3 hours, or actually, I have a load to do today. I'm just going to go on the turbo for an hour and a half and put the work in. And but I reckon come March maybe things might calm down slightly.
I think so too. I think we get to sort of Valentine's Day and the nights start to get a little bit lighter and the mornings start to get a bit lighter, and you can see the light at the end of the tunnel and you know it's coming. And if you can get yourself outdoors once every couple of weeks at this time of year and you're putting the hard work in indoors as well, then you'd be good to go.
Winning combo. Love it.
Yeah.
Love it.
You'd be a winning combo.
Rob, as we're talking about coaching, shall we do Coach's Couch?
Yeah, let's do Coach's Couch.
Okay, so
who've we got for us this week?
Well, we have had a question from @ScousTims, And Scouse Tim's, also known as Longin16, he says, for the podcast about eating during a try, I read somewhere that don't eat for the first hour of the bike because you're still digesting. But then, so...
What, digesting the swim?
Yeah, digesting the swim, digesting your breakfast.
Okay.
Now, there was a podcast recently this week which was purely about food and running, and on that it said that you should eat 3 hours before you run. So Scouse Tim's is asking, on the bike, what roughly would be the latest you'd eat before the run? And he's saying he had problems last year on the run at a middle distance, and he was wondering if that might have been one of the causes.
Right, okay. So basically he's thinking, right, if this guy's saying I shouldn't eat for the first hour and that guy's saying I shouldn't eat for 3 hours before I run, when the hell am I going to eat on the bike before I run in a half Ironman? And it only gives me like a 2-hour window in an Ironman. I see his question.
And I guess should you, once you're out the swim, do you leave it for a little bit before you start eating in an Ironman? He's doing Bolton this year.
Right, okay, yeah, cool. So here's my advice on this one. I reckon you need to give yourself about 15 minutes after you get out of T1 with not having anything. Maybe a little sip of water if you're thirsty, but you probably won't be. But give your stomach sort of 15 minutes to settle after you've got out of T1. Start riding. Once those 15 minutes are up, what people have got to remember is Ironman for most people is not a fitness limited event, it is a fuel limited event. And what I mean by that is if you don't supply the fuel to the muscles as your, every opportunity you get to get that fuel in, then you're just not going to have the fuel to get yourself through the marathon later on, and the bike is your window to do that. So from that point on, you need to be fueling yourself. Now, I'm using the phrase fueling really carefully instead of eating, because I don't believe you have to eat solid fuel on the bike. You don't have to eat solid food. It's fine if you want to, but you don't have to. And for the top end guys, the people who are trying to go fast, you'll see that they take the majority of their calories in as a liquid, whether that's sports drinks, whether that's Coke, whether that's gels mixed in a bottle. The majority of those athletes are going to take in the calories in a form that's the most easy to digest. And it stands to reason, really, doesn't it? If the food goes in as a liquid, it's much easier for your stomach lining to take it through than if it's got to, chew up bits of saurine or whatever. Yeah, makes sense?
Yep, that makes sense.
In terms of getting to the end of the bike leg and then going out onto the run, again, you've got to look at it like this. If you're going to go and do a running race and you've got a big pile of breakfast in your stomach and you're running at a high intensity, usually that's bad news bears. But an Ironman marathon isn't really a high intensity run for all except the very elites, right? For most of us, it's going to be a steady paced run. For the majority of those people, it's going to be a walk jog. For a lot of those people, they're going to get to halfway through the marathon and find they're absolutely knackered and they've got to do lots of walking anyway. So in terms of that, I need to leave a big gap before I go running. Something I found works really well for athletes is to take the last 20 minutes of the bike leg. So you might want to look at the last, what's that going to be, Hells? That's going to be 10 kilometers at 30k an hour, isn't it?
Yeah. Yep.
So you get to the 170k marker on the bike, you stop eating anything, you can, have a little bit of liquid and stuff, but try and let your stomach settle a little bit before you get onto the run. And then once you start running, your stomach's kind of emptied a little bit, it's settled, you can then start taking in liquid and calories again. But you've got to be constantly fueling yourself, and you've got to look at it like try and get that 250 to 300 calories an hour in on the bike and on the run in terms of carbohydrates, so you can keep that rolling through your system and your body has got those sort of sugars available in your bloodstream to deliver that source of energy. Now, I know there's some people out there who are, they're big on the don't do any carbs, I'm only eating peanuts, and that's great, and some people are having a lot of success with it. If that's you, fine. But that's not going to be my advice to people. I think you've got two fuel supplies there. You've got fats and you've got carbs. You've got loads of fat stored in your body already, so do you need to be eating any when you're racing? I don't believe that you do. You've only got a limited amount of carb supply. Do you need to be replacing that? I think that you do. So that's always going to be my advice. So 15 minutes after the end of T1, 15, 20 minutes before you get into T2. That's your window for getting calories in. If, however, there's a caveat here, Hells.
Yeah, go on.
You know what it's going to be, don't you?
Uh,
Coach Rob has said I need loads of calories on the bike, so I'm going to stick 5,000 down while I'm on the bike. Now, your body can process between the average human 250 to 300 calories-ish per hour. More if you're a big guy, possibly less if you're a small person, typically a small lady.
Like me, yeah.
Like you, right? But you need to experiment with this in training, because if you, say, start taking in 500 calories an hour, that's giving you a 250 calorie excess every hour for 5 hours. You've got 1,200 extra calories sitting there in your gut in the terms of slushing gel that just can't be digested.
Ooh.
It's coming out one of two ways, right? It's coming out the top or the bottom. So the dude racing to the porta potty, or the dude being sick at the side of the road, that's usually because they've eaten a little bit too much, typically too much solid food.
And I guess one of the main points here is you have to practice.
Yeah, you've got to know your body, haven't you?
Practice, and you have to practice your fueling strategy between now and Bolton.
Yeah, and we'll talk a bit more about this as we get closer to race season and we do a bit more coaches' couches about race day. But a real good thing for people to consider is the traditional club ride is great for the majority of the year, for the majority of the people. But if you're training for a specific, like, 6-hour bike ride where you're not going to get to stop, some of your training has to include 6 hours or longer bike ride where you're not going to get to stop in training. Which means if your mates are stopping at the coffee shop, we look at what happens in the coffee shop. You sit down, you have some cake and a coffee, and you chat with your mates for half an hour. Your body's no longer exercising, so of course it can process more calories more quickly. That isn't really preparing you for what's going to happen on race day. So for most people, their Ironman is the first time they've ever tried to continuously ride the distance of the race, and then they're going to do a marathon off the back of it. Right? So good luck with that one. So train at least some of the time the way that you're going to race. So with a big, long, old continuous bike ride where, you know, for all intents and purposes, you're rolling into a petrol station, you're in through the door, you grab a bottle of water and a bottle of Coke and you pay and you get out and you start riding. You don't stand around for 10 or 15 minutes with your mates, because that's not what's going to happen on race day. No,
and you've got to prepare your mind for that as well.
Yeah, definitely.
Absolutely. Well, that is at Scouse Timms. Thank you so much for your question.
Great question.
Yeah,
actually.
really, really good one. And if anyone else has got a question, well, then feel free to get in touch. We are at Cup of Try on Twitter, and you can get in touch as well via the oxygenaddict.com website.
Jolly, jolly good. So are we heading over, Helen, to talk about upcoming races this weekend?
Before we do that, shall we reflect on a race from last weekend?
Let's.
Okay.
Go on.
So last week on the podcast, we spoke to Kerry McGawley, who is based up in Sweden at the university, and she's an exercise physiologist. And we were talking about the winter triathlon, and she had the World Championships. So they were in Austria this past weekend. And she only went and won her blooming age group, Rob. She's world champion.
She's world champion. Good girl.
Isn't that cool? So Kerry got the fastest. So it starts off with a run. She got the fastest run of the day in her age group. Then you go on to the mountain bike. Again, she got the fastest mountain bike split. And she was telling us that she wasn't particularly amazing on the mountain bike, so she can't be that bad at all. Well done. And then she got the fastest cross-country ski as well.
That's brilliant.
Isn't that awesome?
Taking it to the Austrians, hey?
Absolutely taking it to the Austrians and the Estonians in her age group. There was, I think she was, she lost out on the fastest T2 by, I don't know, 1/10 of a second. So, you know, there's room for improvement there. But no, absolutely fantastic result. So it looked like a cool event, and we were.
Hey, and well done you for having the heads up to get an interview in before somebody in a pretty unique niche sport, just before she wins the World Championships.
Well, you know.
Well done, Helen. Pat on the back.
Thank you very much. Well, it was.
You get Helen's fist pump of joy for that. Well done.
Oh, it was brilliant. So she won the European title in 2011. So it's, yeah. Oh, I'm really, really, really pleased for her.
Hi Rob, hi Helen, it's Kerry McGawley here. I thought I'd let you and the listeners know how the Winter Tri World Champs race was in Austria. Well, the location was great, surrounded by the Austrian Alps and farmland. It was pretty warm, so artificial snow had been used for the ski tracks, and the run and mountain bike sections were mainly on grass and quite a bit of mud. We were two athletes from GB, me and Keith Jens, who raced in the male 45 to 49 age group. The race distances were actually shortened the day before the race, which was a bit of a blow to me and my slow twitch muscle fibres, but actually my race ended up going as well as I could have hoped, really. The run was around 4Ks on a mainly flat, grassy course, and I led from the start, so came into T1 around 30 seconds or so up on the rest of the female field. But then I got caught on a technical, muddy mountain bike course by a couple of the girls, as I could have predicted, really. That said, my finely honed transition skills meant I came out of T2 in second place, about 30 seconds down on the new leader, who was a phenomenal 50 to 54 year age category Austrian lady. Yeah, my legs felt like jelly as I hit the ski track, which was really flat and fast. But I managed to hold together some sort of, I guess, Scandinavian influenced ski technique, so I took a few seconds off the leader and actually clocked, I think, the second fastest ski time of the day. So not enough to reel in the Austrian superwoman, but I took second overall and won gold in my age group, so I was pretty chuffed with that World Championship medal. Yeah, it was great to have another Brit there to share the experience with, but it'd be cool to have more GB athletes at these events in future. I think they're really good fun and a good way to break up the winter training, and I think stay strong and motivated prior to the summer season. So, Helen, I hope to see at least you out there next year. Cheers, guys. See ya.
Yeah, that's really cool.
So it does, you see, this whole winter triathlon, there's definitely, if people want to give it a go, there is a GB age group team that competes in the World Championship, so it's a completely different challenge, and we had a good old chat about it last week. So if you want to find out a little bit more, then check out last week's podcast.
Yeah, get back and listen to the archive. Now, looking forwards instead of backwards, this weekend sees the first, what we consider to be the first big iron distance race of the season. I think the 10th anniversary race of Challenge Wanaka down in New Zealand. Absolutely iconic, beautiful setting. It is, I think, one of the most stunning race venues in the world, and it's on our bucket list, I think, Hells, isn't it?
Oh, absolutely. I did just Google exactly where it was, and that part of New Zealand, oh my God, is just beautiful. So it's just north. If you know New Zealand, just go a little bit northeast of Queenstown, and there you get to Wanaka. So we have enlisted the help of our friend, podcast colleague.
Let's say friends. Our podcast friend, let's say that. I feel like we're friends now.
Bev McKinnon, who does Fitter Radio. And again, I'm not saying stop listening to us, because clearly, but actually, if you find that you go out on 2 long runs or 2 long sessions a week, then it's good to have another podcast. So check out Fitter Radio, and the host is Bev McKinnon, and he has been looking ahead to Challenge Wanaka for us.
Hi, Helen and Rob, and all the Cup of Tri podcast listeners. It's Monday here in New Zealand, and this coming weekend we have Challenge Wanaka. I'll be travelling down to the event on Wednesday to participate in the half distance race, but I'm really looking forward to the professional race and the full distance race for those age groupers. Not only does Wanaka present one of the most spectacular courses around the world in terms of scenery and setting, the weather in New Zealand has been particularly good this summer, and we're looking for a really hot day. So for those people that come to Wanaka every year, they're going to be faced with a spectacular lake. It'll probably be the warmest that it's been in a number of years. Hopefully the wind's not up. Typically down in Wanaka, the way that the landscape is, the lake is sheltered on both sides by mountains, and the wind can funnel through there, so it does tend to have some sort of high winds at times, but the scenery definitely makes up for it. The run course at the event is also particularly challenging off-road. It does follow the shoreline of the lake plus the river inlet to the lake as well, so it's again one of the most spectacular run courses you'd ever hope to be able to travel across in a full distance Ironman race. Now, this year in particular, I think it's going to be a really, really exciting 10th anniversary edition of the race. We have Gina Crawford and Dylan McNeice, defending champions, coming back. Gina having won the event 7 times, and Dylan looking to pick up his 4th title with a bit of luck. But we also face potentially what is the strongest professional field that the race has ever attracted in Yvonne van Verken and Laura Siddell. For those British listeners, I'm sure she's a favourite of yours, and I know she's been on your podcast interviewed. She's a wonderful, wonderful athlete and a great person, and she is, I think, going to be one of the dark horses this year. She had a particularly strong 70.3 outing here in Taupo earlier in the year. And that came off not a particularly specific build for that race. It was just in the middle of a training block. So my dark horse pick is Sid for this particular event. Gina is obviously always a difficult athlete to beat in Yvonne's world class. But Yvonne has been doing quite a bit of racing through Australia in the summer, so it's going to be really interesting, and it's going to be probably the closest female race that we would have experienced in quite a number of years down in Wanaka. The men's race, well, it's been Dylan's for the last few years. What a spectacular swimmer he is. He really does lead from the front and almost wins the event in an old-fashioned style, which is first out of the water, first off the bike, and first across the finish line. But in this year's race, he again faces probably the stiffest challenge. It is a race course that does lend itself to out of sight, out of mind, and with Dylan's prowess in the water, he has been able to exit the water with sometimes over a 5-minute gap on the chasing pack, and never to be seen again almost. But the bike course is rolling. The road surface is it's not as rough chip as the North Island, but it's definitely a smoother pebble and a slightly slower race course on the bike than most international full distance races. And if the wind picks up, it definitely makes for a challenging bike ride. But again, the scenery will definitely take your mind off some of that hurt. But this year, obviously, Mike Twelzik, who has posted the fastest bike time at Kona last year, and our local boy Dougal Allen, who last year rode 4:28 on what is, as we recognise, not a particularly fast bike course. So that's definitely some horsepower in those legs. But again, more importantly for the UK listeners, we've got Joe Skipper here, and I know Joe faced some challenges in getting here with some pretty hefty excess baggage premiums on his bike with Emirates, but I did note the other day that he is now down in Queenstown, so he's got here safely, and we all know that Joe Skipper possesses one of the strongest bike run combinations around the world. So you add to the lineup Yvonne van Vlerken's partner Per Bittner, who is a very, very accomplished long distance racer in his own right, having a really great race at Challenge Melbourne recently. And it's going to be one of the deepest and most competitive men's field. I would actually say that this year we're going to see a slightly different race unfold. Normally Dylan, as I say, has a large lead out of the water, but with the horsepower that's on the bike behind him, should Dougal, Mikey Twelzik and Joe Skipper get together at any stage, that's probably one of the strongest 3 cyclists in the sport. So it's not going to be the race that normally unfolds down in Challenge, down in Wanaka. I think it's going to be a very, very exciting race, and I would imagine that the order of athlete that hits the transition for the run is going to be slightly different than what we've seen in previous years. And it's going to come down to who can run the best off-road marathon, and that's always going to be a challenge should the heat get up down in Wanaka. So it is a bucket list race for a lot of people around the world. The scenery is just absolutely breathtaking. If you're ever going to be in the hurt box during a long distance triathlon, you want it to be in Wanaka. It's one of those places that is we've been so lucky to have this event here in New Zealand, and it's into its 10th year, and I know that for a lot of people it'll be one of the races that they want to do before their careers finish, and we're starting to finally see a professional field that sort of matches the quality of the race venue. So it's all systems go for this Saturday in Wanaka. We'll be down there following the race and participating ourselves, and we hope that potentially there's going to be some Kiwi victories, but you just never know. It could be Joe Skipper or Laura Siddell standing atop the podium, and they'll both be very, very good and worthy champions should they take those crowns off the Kiwi athletes. So if you haven't been here, come along, do the race, get over to New Zealand. I'm sure you'll love it.
It's nice to get a different accent on the show, isn't it?
Isn't it good? Yeah, really, really good. So thank you, Bevan. Thank you so much for doing that. And
it's great to get somebody's local knowledge and someone who obviously knows the race really well and knows people who are competing. That's cool.
It's really good, isn't it? So if you do want to check out Bevan's podcast, then it's fitter.co.nz, and then you'll find his podcast there, and again it's on iTunes, and it is a really, really good listen, so check them out. It's going to be such a good race though, Rob, isn't it?
Who do you fancy? Who's your money on?
I'm going with what Bevan said.
Really?
Yeah.
Taking the professional's view.
Yeah.
Who did he fancy? Laura Siddell for the win?
Yep.
Or did he
Dark
fancy
Dark Horse, I think.
The dark horse? Because is it Gina Crawford? She's got a race.
Yeah.
That's going to be a good race with those two, isn't
It's going to be brilliant. And then in the men's,
Van Vleuten as well.
Yep.
A good old battle, that one.
It's going to be great. And honestly, do Google Wanaka. It
is worth going to the race website actually, because it's got some beautiful photographs on there. It does a really good job of selling it, doesn't it?
Yeah, it looks absolutely. It just looks beautiful. Bevan described it really, really well, and then you look at the pictures and it's just a glorious, glorious lake surrounded by stunning mountain backdrop. Yeah, it must be blooming delightful.
I think the I Am Talk Boys did the commentary for this. I think I remember watching it on like a YouTube show of Challenge Wanaka from last year. They did the commentary, Bev and John.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, they were really good at it as well. Give them the credit and a pat on the back. They did a really good job on the commentary. So go and check that out on YouTube, and it does look brilliant.
Yeah, absolutely fantastic. And I reckon Joe Skipper is going to have a good race. I think he had a nightmare getting out there. Bevan alluded to it, but Emirates were just. I think he ended up having to pay like $2,000 or something in excess baggage for his bikes, and then he arrived and one of them was completely trashed. So. He had a bit of a nightmare, but hopefully enough time to get everything sorted and kind of put that to the back of his mind and actually concentrate on the race. But I think
Boardman flew a new bike out there for him.
I saw it. Yeah,
that's pretty awesome sponsorship, isn't it? That's the kind of people you want looking after you.
Yeah.
Here you go, mate. On the next flight, there's a new bike coming.
Yeah. Mind it. Certainly puts the mind at rest, doesn't it?
It does.
It's fantastic.
Hope he does well.
Fingers crossed, we will bring you the results next week.
And we're going to try and get him on the show as well, aren't we? And try and get a quick after-show interview with him.
Oh, yeah, if we can, that'd be great.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
He'll be up for it. Skipper. He's up for anything. He'll stay up in the middle of the night to do an interview, won't he?
Would he?
Yeah.
Would he? Oh, he's a good... Yeah, he probably would, actually.
No pressure, Joe. No pressure. We're building the expectation there. And that's pretty much all the races around at the moment. It's low on the ground, isn't it? Not much news happening. Not many races happening.
There'll be more though. Hey, we're building into it.
Yeah, the season's coming.
I know. I'm getting a little bit today when I was driving back, and just you could tell the days were getting lighter. It's like it's just around the corner.
Yeah,
it's exciting.
Tell us about your race this weekend, Hals.
Oh, I did a half marathon and it was horrible. Simple. From mile 5, it was really not good. I don't know if I've ever done one from mile 5 where it's really
you just have to grit your teeth and get through it.
And
One of those.
I was thinking, yeah, it
It's
really
a long
was.
way, isn't it? 8 miles of pain is a long way.
It's just 8 miles of legs not wanting to really move particularly well. And I was thinking, oh, that bloody Rob Wilby, he's, oh.
Don't blame me for it. You said, can I enter a half marathon? I'll get a free cake. You'll do anything for a free cake, you will.
You get Welsh,
sure, fill your boots,
You get Welsh cakes at the end. I just thought, oh, damn it. I don't know, my legs didn't feel particularly fresh, but I know this was the point, and I thought, I get it. This is all in prep for Bolton, because I got to feel like this, and I'm not going to have to do 8 miles. I'm going to have to do 26.
If you can run 13 miles at the pace you did this weekend with trashed legs, you're going to be able to run 13 miles with trashed legs at the end of Bolton. And you'll remember you got through it.
Exactly.
And put it in perspective, it was a couple of minutes away from a PB, right?
Yeah.
So even feeling terrible doesn't make that much difference. That's the thing to remember.
Correct. It was quite funny. At mile 8, it was going through my head. Do you reckon I can stop? Like, really? What's the worst that could happen? Maybe I could just walk the last couple of miles. And then I was thinking, no. My mum and dad very kindly, because it's near where they live, they came to. I knew they were going to be at mile 10. So I was like, come on, Helen, you can run 2 miles and then you'll see them and they'll give you a little cheer, and there's only 3 to the end. So just keep blooming going, you
Yeah,
there's a lot of...
Hey, well, I tell you what, mate, welcome to the mental world of Ironman right there.
Yeah, I know.
You know that's going to be coming at mile 8 of the marathon in the Ironman, so
Yep, exactly.
It's more mental training than anything, isn't it?
Exactly. Yeah. So it was a nice day, you know.
My mate Andy took me up into the high fells today to do a run.
Oh, nice.
And I was like, oh, well, we have to take it easy because I've just done this big week. And he was like, yeah, whatever. And on the way down the first big hill, both my quads and one hamstring cramped. And you know when you're at the furthest away point from where you're going back to?
Yeah.
And you're faced with another 30 minutes of downhill running with 2 quads that are cramping. I'm just running my hands over my thighs now, and it's like a bag of marbles underneath my right quad. I can just feel these lumps.
Oh.
It was not pretty.
Oh.
And he kept going, well, you know what, Rob? If this happens on the top of that mountain, you're going to have to keep going. So
it's true. So we've both had mental prep this weekend.
Yeah. Pucker up, Buttercup.
I'm doing another 10-mile race this weekend coming. Should be fun.
You'll love it.
You know what?
We've raced nearly a full marathon in a week.
Oh, brilliant. Yeah. It's like a bit more off-roady. Quite looking forward to it.
Oh, it'll be great. I'll be up your street more.
Yeah, across a beach.
You're migrating away from the road, aren't you?
I think that happened a while ago. So, Rob, you've had your 2 weeks. Well, we haven't done the show now for 2 weeks. You were out in Fuerteventura. What's happening with Team Oxygen Addict?
Well, do you know what? The listeners don't know nothing's happened for 2 weeks, do they? Because for them it was seamless because we recorded in advance and we were really smooth.
Sorry, we're going to have to do this again.
No, not at all. It's cool. What's happening with Team Oxygen Addict? Well, what's happening is we are a month in with our beta testers. We have worked out everything we need to work out and we are ready to go, baby.
Ready?
That big red launch button. Friday the 19th of February, we are ready to go live to the world. And I know what you're thinking, is the world ready?
Well, exactly. So, if you're going to be going live to the world, what does this actually mean if someone is interested in Team Oxygen Addict?
What it means is that come Friday the 19th, we are going to have, we've got a whole new website up in the background. So at the moment, we're just saying oxygenaddict.com/team, and it will redirect you automatically to this slick new website that we've put together, and we're dead excited about it. It's a proper membership website. So we've got sections in for podcasts and for video thingamies, like resources for people with swim drills and stuff like that, and bits where people can download documents that I've written. And then it links through and everyone's got their own little page on there when they join up, and it tells us about them and it keeps all their information. It's really cool. It's what we kind of wanted to have the first time round and we didn't didn't manage to get it in place then.
Yep.
So we've had 18 members inside the team for a month now. They've been helping us work these kinks out in the system, and we've got the training plans all ready to go and ready to send out to people when they join up. And we've got things for Ironman, and we've got things for half Ironman, and we've got different levels of the plan. So if people come in and they've got a big training volume history, they get in this plan, and if they've got a little training volume history, they get that plan, and if they've never really done much before, they get that plan. And so it's all kind of going to fit together really nicely, and we're just dead excited about it.
That is great. That's really cool. Yeah, that's exciting. And so it's basically, it's for everybody. It doesn't matter if if you're thinking of maybe signing up to, say, an Olympic, because last year you just did sprints and you're thinking, I want a little bit more guidance. Up until
at the moment, no, that's really important. We're only launching plans for Ironman distance and half Ironman distance for this year. We've decided we're not going to do sprint and Olympic this year because we just want to do one thing really well. So we're at the point now. We've got kind of, it's 21 weeks or so until the main summer Ironman type things start happening. So UK, Outlaw, Germany, Roth, things like that are all 21 weeks away, and that's about the amount of time I think it's good to have an athlete for before a race. So if somebody joins up now, we can get them in and give them a few weeks of preparation, and then boom, they've got a 20-week plan. If they're joining a bit later and it's closer to their race, well, we can still feed them into a plan that's going to be adapted, that could be 16 weeks or 14 weeks or 12 weeks. And I'm thinking at this point, if someone's less than 12 weeks out away from their race, it's probably a bit too late for us to help them out this year. They can still come in, but I'm not sure it's really going to be ideal. 20 weeks is going to be perfect, I think. Yep. And then it's going to give us time to get these guys through the summer Ironmans, and then people who are racing later in the year in half Ironmans, at the end of August and stuff. And then there's another sort of set of racing Mallorca and Barcelona and Kona and things like that at the end of the year. So there's a bit more time for those guys to get in. So whenever anybody signs up, the plan's going to be tailored to them for how long they've got before the race. So yeah, pretty excited about it all, really.
Brilliant. Love it. That's great.
So yeah, good to go. So yeah, go over and check it out, oxygenaddict.com/team. Page will be open this Friday. Don't email me and ask what time the page is going to be open. It's not going to be a time limited thing like it was last time, so it'll just pop up at some point during the day, and you can go in and have a nosy at the website and have a giggle at the intro video that I recorded today, with me looking very awkward in front of the video recorder.
Oh no! I think I might need to give you some training.
Oh,
I haven't even seen it, but
It's dead hard. I remember laughing at that guy who came down from the BBC. Do you remember when he recorded at the track? We were going, he keeps messing his slides up. It's really hard.
Yeah.
Those guys are really good at what they do, aren't they?
Yeah. I'll give you some training.
It's going to need more than that. I need like an implant in my retina that plays a script in front of my eyes as I'm talking to the camera.
Yeah. I don't really know how they do it. I don't know how they do it. Well, no, they do, don't they? Because Joe Skipper's crazy glasses show all the information inside his sunglasses, don't they? So
hey, that's not a bad idea.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
it's going to take something like that to make it actually playable for me, I tell you.
It's all about being natural.
Yeah, well, it ended up almost being natural. It's hard though when your own face is looking back at you, and you kind of get distracted by it, and you kind of go, I'm talking blah, 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 and why is my nose a funny shape?
Yeah, cameras aren't great. This is why podcasting is really good.
That's it. You're much less self-aware when you're talking, aren't you?
So much better, yeah.
The podcasts I've recorded for the team stuff, I've just loved doing. And the minute he's put a video camera in front of me, I've just gone, I'm really, really uncomfortable with this.
Yeah.
Oh, man.
Yeah.
Oh dear.
There we go.
So listen, let's wrap up with a quick talk about our third sponsor that we mentioned. I mentioned whiteboards for Cambodia, didn't I?
You did. So what the heck is whiteboards for Cambodia?
Right, so here we go. It's nothing to do with triathlon. This is an appeal really on behalf of one of my oldest friends called Nick Hind, who I shared a room with at university. He's a really great guy who's gone over to live in Cambodia and train teacher trainers over there to try and help improve their education system. So I've got to admit, Hals, I'm pretty useless with history. Do you know anything about the history of Cambodia and all of that kind of stuff?
No, not a load about it.
Not really. Well, like in short, basically, Nick went over there because the Khmer Rouge basically did ethnic cleansing and killed a whole like middle class generation during the late 1970s. And because of that, hardly anybody goes to secondary school anymore, because that whole sort of middle class was wiped out, and people are now trapped in this cycle of poverty and, you know, can't get out of it, can't afford to go to school, so can't get educated. So Nick has pretty much spent the last 15 years over there either teaching in schools, and now he works for the government trying to help train more teachers to help teach kids better.
Yep.
And he's come up with this brilliant, simple plan that more kids will learn faster if we teach them the kind of British way. You know, where all the kids get like a little whiteboard and a pen.
Yep.
Teacher asks a question, and they can all write their answer on this little whiteboard and then hold it up, and the teacher can check instantly whether 30 kids have understood, rather than it used to be taught, I think, a bit more British colonial old school, where the teacher gets them all in lines and sits them down in silence and asks a question and one hand goes up. So Nick's idea is we can raise enough money to buy 6,600 tiny little whiteboards and pens and rubbers.
Yeah.
And that will be enough for 32 classes of 40 children, which is all of the secondary schools that he's currently working in at the moment. It costs just under 25 quid to buy a whole class these whiteboards and pens. So I got this email off Nick saying, do you know anybody who can help us to help raise money? And I thought, right, we've got nearly 1,000 listeners. If a few of them would be willing to give 25 quid, you could raise the money to buy this, and Nick's appeal will be done in no time. So if you go to oxygenaddict.com/Cambodia, I've set a page up there for Nick that's got a dead simple, you can use your credit card and donate 25 quid. I'll pass the money on to Nick personally to his personal bank account. If you want to read more about it, Nick's free website he's set up is smallboards.weebly.com. But it hasn't got like a donate feature on, because he hasn't got any money to run this project, and he would have to pay to have the kind of credit card processing thing go on. So I said, look, man, I'll host that on my website because I'm paying for it already, so it's no big deal. If anybody out there could spare 25 quid to help out educate kids in a country that's really struggling, get my undying gratitude. You'll help some kids out, and I think it'd be pretty awesome. And Nick's the kind of guy who, he's just one of those really special people, you know. And if we can help him out, I'd love to.
I've got his website up now. It's it definitely tells you more about it and everything like that. So all the information is up there as well. So yeah, definitely. Yeah,
get on there, educate yourself, learn about what happened with the Khmer Rouge and all that kind of stuff.
Wow.
It's not about triathlon, is it? But man, we could change the world if we've got 1,000 people listening, and 1% or 10% can donate some money and can afford to. We can make a massive difference to his appeal. What's he on at the moment?
So he's on $1,000.
He's on $1,000 and he needs to raise $5,500. So there we go.
So there. Oh, that's definitely. So they want teaching aids for maths and science teachers in rural Cambodian lower secondary schools. So check it out, smallboards.weebly.com, or as Rob said, oxygenaddict.com / Cambodia.
So my roommate in college, right, Nick, I was a drunk at university.
Were you?
I was a drunk, man. I discovered beer at university and I was wrapped in drinking. And Nick used to wake me up every morning after I'd missed the first lecture with a packet of chocolate buttons and a pint of milk by the bedside because it was all I could eat. And the guy kept me alive for a year.
Oh.
And he'd bring extra sets of lecture notes home for me, and I was in a mess, man. And that guy held me together for the year. Wow. He really, really did.
It was like the 1990s pre-triathlon chocolate milk.
It was the end of my track running career, me discovering alcohol and about to start on that whole exciting journey that we've never really got into on the podcast.
And let's leave it for
that's a story for a whole other podcast, isn't it?
Definitely nothing.
But suffice to say, I don't drink anymore, and the boy kept me alive through that period. So I owe him a favour or two. So anyone who's been helped out by triathlon information on here, pay it back to Nick, not to me.
Fab. Well, if you want to get in touch with us at all, feel free, please do. We are on Twitter at @CoversTry. The website is www.oxygenaddict.com /podcast, and you can listen back through any of our previous episodes up there. Check out last week's interview with Kerry, who went on to win her age group at the Winter Triathlon World Championships. And if you haven't listened to the Lionel Sanders interview, that's a really, really good one. So go back and check out some previous episodes. Meanwhile, good luck to everyone racing at Challenge Wanaka this weekend.
Yeah, I think we should run a book. I think we should run a book on how fast Joe Skipper's going to ride the bike out in Wanaka.
Do I need to give some sort of prediction? Because Bevan said that... What did he say?
Someone had ridden 4:29 on that course, hadn't they?
Yeah, and it's not a
Someone
fast
had
course.
smashed it. It's not fast. So you don't have to say it now, Hells. Let's put it out on Twitter and get some Twitter love going on out there. Nearest person to Joe Skipper's bike time wins an Oxygen Addict t-shirt. How about that?
Okay, fine.
Yeah.
I'm going to leave this one to you. Yep, to get going.
Nearest one to Joe Skipper's bike time wins an Oxygen Addict t-shirt.
Brilliant.
It's a good one.
Okay, Joe, good luck. May the mechanical gods be with you.
Absolutely. You said it. You said it. Right, let's wrap it up, Hells. This has been awesome. It's been great talking to you again. Good job last week when I wasn't here.
Thank you very much.
I am very much looking forward to next week. We've got some more interviews lined up coming up. And let's see how we go in the future, eh?
Absolutely. Brilliant. Well, you have been listening to the Covers Try Triathlon podcast. I'm Helen Murray.
And I'm Coach Rob Wilby.
And we'll be back next week.
All right. Rock and roll. Take care, everyone. See you soon. Get over to the website and donate to Nick's Cambodian whiteboard appeal. Cheers, everyone. Bye now.